Before I start, I just want to say that right now, the map is out! If you have Left 4 Dead 2, you can download it and play it right now. Though, it is still in beta, meaning that the textures still look like a whole load of butt ass. I don't know what it is with me and putting ass in everything I say, but whatever. Welcome to the Fallen Fortress devlog, part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, you should go see that to understand this video better. In this video, I'll be talking about levels 3, 4, and 5, and for a bonus, I'll talk about some dropped concepts and some cut content from the map. So far in the campaign, we started in an office compound, went on the rooftops on top of the town, got through a hotel that's burning to the ground, got in the lift and descended back down, went all the way back around, set off an alarm that made a big sound, and then went in a safe room on a construction ground. Well, okay, I already used ground, but fuck it, we're at level 3, the facility. Level 3 might be the longest level in the campaign, a bit longer than level 2. You start out in this mobile home, and you have this open field in front of you full of zombies. You can shoot them out of the door window, or you can go into the bedroom and shoot them out this barred up window and clear them out safely before going outside. Now, the first thing you should notice is this big ass entrance. It goes downhill with a bunch of these vehicles here and there. And this place looks like a bee hopper's paradise. You could zoom past the whole level from here if you do it right. Now you're underground in this big area. You're up on this high ground, but you have two ways to get down. Either by going down this ramp, or by just dropping down. There's this locker room here that you can either go in through this blasted out hole in the ceiling, or from the front door. There's a lift with an open sky above it for zombies to drop in. There's a blocked off tunnel that zombies can get past, but you can't. And there's this big ass dump truck that you can climb onto and loot. Too bad you can't actually drive it though. You go into this tunnel and have two options. You can go straight into the next area, or go into the storage room, which also has another exit leading to the next area. This area again starts off on high ground, and the area below is flooded with water, and the ceiling above has a huge sinkhole in it. There's this break room that has some stuff in it, and you can jump right out and get on this conveyor belt, which actually functions, and it actually carries you across, though there isn't much use to it, and it's mostly just cosmetic. When you enter this area, you should notice this big entrance with a big flashing light above it. And the only way you can get there is by going on this other ledge on the other side of the room. And there's a few ways you can get up there. You can go up the working conveyor belt, go up this destroyed conveyor belt on this side, or go up this small lift that takes you up there. There's a truck full of tier 2 weapons, and there's the path to the next area. This area has a tall office building with several floors. This top floor has no access to the stairs, so you can't go down from here or go back up to here. You have to go down this slope, but you can't go back up. It's another point of no return, and you have to watch out for people trying to take advantage of that if you're playing versus mode, like I mentioned in part 1. You can check out the lower floors of the office, but once you jump down to the bottom, you can't go back up anymore. Now you have another panic event. These boxes are blocking the way, but good thing there's a bulldozer here just in case something like that happens. You activate the bulldozer and the event begins. Now, this event is a bit different from most panic events in the game. It occupies a gray area between a holdout event where you camp out in one area and defend against the attacking zombies while a door tries to open or something like that, and a running event where you have to run through a horde of zombies and turn off an alarm to stop them. There's 3 different areas in this event. There's the pit area where you started, which has all these stacks of wood that you can stand on and hold out on. But once the crates are knocked out, you have access to Area 2, which is a storage complex with a big lift that you can climb up on, and this compartment with 2 stories. After the bulldozer smashes through this front loader blocking the way, you can go into this other storage compartment with open rooms that have loot inside, but you can't squeeze past the bulldozer in this narrow hallway, so you have to let it pass them to go in. And finally, you make it to this cab ride and you ride off away from the zombies. See you later, nerds! The thing with this event is that you actually have the choice to either hold out in one area and go when it's done, or you can follow the bulldozer to its destination and defend it. You press the button on the cab and ride over the abyss. During the ride, you have time to reload and heal up, But once it stops, you're not safe anymore. You get out of the cab, and now you're back outside. There is a car alarm, so watch your fire. You see a sign, and there it is! Sanctuary! The zombie-proof fortress. Though it is kind of weird how it's completely silent and there's no people here. Turns out that it wasn't so safe all along. Level 4 is a shorter level, and it's supposed to be a little rollback between level 2 and 3, which were the longest levels in the campaign, and the finale. You start out in this driveway area, which has all these surrounding high ground areas, which not only acts as a cosmetic asset, showing the fortification that the survivors occupying the fortress built on to better fight the zombies, but it also acts as a strategic spawn area for infected players to attack from. There's this trailer that might have some good stuff in it, and there's a storeroom on the side here, but the main path is in this generator room. The path here is blocked, so you're supposed to go up on this upper area and jump down to the other side. This level has not one, but two types of uncommon infected. One of these are the riot zombies, which wear bulletproof armor on everything except their back, so you have to spin them around and shoot them. Out of all the uncommon infected, the riot zombies are the toughest to deal with, so I had to compensate for that by making it the rarest uncommon infected that appears, only making up 4% of the zombie population of the level, while on the previous levels, their respective uncommon infected only took up 10%. The other uncommon infected is even more rare, but it isn't much of a threat, so I didn't think it counted, and that's the Fallen Survivor, which is a zombie that carries a good amount of loot, all the way from health pickups to grenades. So when you see a fallen survivor out in the field, you definitely want to kill it and take the loot. But the thing is, once it takes a good amount of damage, it runs away and tries to get out of your sight. So you might have to chase it down and kill it before it gets out of the area. Which could still be tough because it has a good amount of health and takes some serious firepower to take down. But your efforts will be rewarded. Now, one thing you might notice is that there's dead gunmen everywhere. One thing I had to keep in mind when making this is that there's a backstory to this whole campaign, and I can't tell that through cutscenes or anything, so I have to tell it through map design. You can tell that everyone here made their last stand trying to fight off the zombies. Gunmen in strategic locations are lying dead. These barracks are blocked off and all of the beds are empty, except for this one sleepyhead who didn't get up. And you could even see a bit of questionable ethics going on. You could tell they were desperate to not die in this fortress, to the point where it looks like they went too far. They used this coal processor to dispose of dead bodies, and on one part, you see a connector room with a sign saying to keep the doors shut. You go on the other side, and it says that only upper staff are allowed to go in. Not only hinting that this is some super secret room that you should not go into, but also that all the survivors in the fortress organize themselves into roles. You head in, and there's this whole line of dead people who didn't look infected. Anyways, back to the generator room. You head out the other door into this corridor with a barracks room that might have something good, and out into this area where a bunch of vehicles are stored. And you also have this army truck that has a microphone on the back of it, signifying that there could have been an announcer here talking to the whole survivor group, and they did a head count every morning and evening to see if everyone was still, "Nah, I'm just fucking with you. I only put it in so I could do this."
Someone should use their health pack.
Shut up, It'll do you good. Try strong.
I'm trying to keep my head up.
I'm not even kidding either, because all of the microphones you can spam voice lines into are on the Left 4 Dead 2 maps. So you never get to do it with the Left 4 Dead 1 survivors, but I guess the whole announcer thing still works too. There's this secret room over here that you can only get into by going in the back of this ambulance and then out of the side door. But other than that, you're supposed to go into this big coal processor area, which is this big monolith that you should have spotted in the other levels, looming in the distance, similar to the hospital in No Mercy. You go up the stairs and you have the option to go down to the lower area, or you could keep up on this upper area and go across to the other building that you can loot. Now this part has one of my favorite mechanics in the whole campaign.
The fucking Big Grinder!
It pretty much insta-kills everything that falls in. If you're a survivor, you'll hang off the ledge and you won't instantly die, but you can still get charged in by a charger, so it could work as a strategic death charge spot in versus mode. After you go out the other side of the processor plant, you go into this armory room with ammo, laser sights, 4 melee weapons, a medicine cabinet, and every gun in the game apart from the grenade launcher and M60. It acts a lot like the gun store on Dead Center, where it kinda acts like a mini checkpoint to resupply and heal up before an event. The event on this level is a running event. You open these doors and an alarm goes off, and now the goal is to run all the way to the safe room across this railroad with a bunch of crashed trains on it. You can climb up on some of them, or just go low, but once you make it to the safe room, it's on to the finale level. The finale level was definitely the easiest level to make, mostly because a lot of the work was already done. So a few years ago, I made a Left 4 Dead 2 survival map based off the idea of Fallen Fortress. Knowing I had absolutely no experience with map making, I just made a quick and small survival map to test the waters a bit before I make a whole ass campaign. I had many different ideas on where in the campaign I'd put it, but after I had a bunch of other events made for every other level, I had nowhere else to put it but the finale, which is fine because I thought it'd work best as the finale area. You start in this corridor with all these other rooms at the sides that might have some supplies in them. You go outside and there's this ledge you have to jump down. It's another point of no return, so watch out. Once everyone jumps down, there's no way back up. The first thing that should catch your eye is this big walled area with the lights on. You go in and you hear some jackass on the radio auto-playing a bunch of messages. He says that he needs some help getting out of the city and that the survivors could give him help. But he needs to roll into the station with his train to pick up the survivors and then back out again. This seems to be the only way the survivors can get out now, so they agree to the plan. All they need to do is hold out until he gets here. The perimeter has a diverse set of areas. There's the railroad, which is big and open, but there isn't much strategic ground to hold out on. There's this booth that has some extra supplies. There's this pile of boxes that has a high ground advantage among the surrounding low ground. Under the balcony, which has a roof over the head so you can bottleneck zombies under there, but one spitter and you're screwed. You can go over the balcony, which has some high ground, but infected can drop right on top of you from the walls. There's this building, which is high up and has some windows to fire out from, but you're right next to the edge of the wall, so zombies can reach you easily. And you can walk on the wall itself, but there's not much space to maneuver around, and a smoker could pull you down and deal a nasty amount of fall damage. It's mostly the same from what I've made it a few years ago, with some changes. The second floor walls of the building were very thin for some reason, but now they're thick enough to where bullets can't pierce through it. This invisible wall was kinda stupid, so I put a fence on the walls to give it more visual feedback. And I added these big pipes overhead to give infected players another area to attack from, and survivors another area to be wary of. It acts as a standard finale. Hold your ground against the attacking hordes and the couple of tanks that spawn in. The train rolls up and then you hop on and right out of there. And that's the end of Fallen Fortress. Fallen Fortress took me over a year to make, and the idea of it was around for even longer. So of course, that means that ideas came and went, and there was a lot of cut content along the way. Not long after the Fallen Fortress survival map was made, I went ahead and began working on the campaign. It sucked ass from what I remember. It was like a 2-year-old made a source map. But after I got halfway done with level 1, I got a new computer. And I lost the whole project on the old computer. Which at the time I was sad over, and I kind of forgot about the whole project for a year. But now I'm kind of glad that happened, and I'm glad I had to remake it to what it is now. I mention this because I had a completely different idea of what the campaign would be like. The motivation was still that you're looking for a zombie fortress that survivors built. And you started in an office building where you go up on the rooftops and go back down. But those are the only similarities. You were supposed to go back down onto a construction site where a crane picked up a shipping crate and you can run to the safe room. Then you go to level 2, which takes place in an industrial part from the urban area. In level 3, you're out in the wilderness, and at the end, you find the fortress, which is supposed to be an underground facility that got repurposed into a survival base, and it took place on a cliff rock with a river right under it. In level 4, you go into the base and find your way to the docks at the bottom level. In level 5, you hold out on the river docks, which is where they docked cargo boats that went on the river and shipped back supplies to the fortress. After you hold out long enough, a boat then arrives and rescues you. Some things actually did survive that concept, the biggest being the overall urban and industrial setting with all the construction sites and building areas. There was also the underground facility idea that eventually became what level 3 is, but fun fact, level 3 was originally going to be called the mines instead of the facility, but about halfway in I realized that it didn't even look like a mine. You see all the equipment and machinery for it, but you don't see any big ores or crystals or whatever, so I could add that in, but most of the level was already done. And I didn't want to break the already perfect level I made so far, so I simply just changed the name and went with it. Another concept that survived was an idea I didn't even mention yet. In level 2 of the original concept, I have an idea where you're in a sawmill, and you had to power a truck to smash through a few barriers. And as it destroyed them, more of the area progressively opens up for the survivors. Something similar happens in level 4 with the underground base level, where a big truck is in a narrow tunnel and you can't squeeze past, so you have to power it up and let it drive through. But all these doors at the side of the tunnel progressively came accessible as the truck rolled on out of the way. I used both of these ideas in the bulldozer event on level 3, where it opened up more areas and it destroyed barriers in its way, and in the end, where it went through a narrow tunnel with some rooms at the side that you can't enter unless it gets out of the way first. There was one really big concept that I really wanted to put in, but kinda realized it was impossible to do so before I even tried to implement it. And that was a part where you ride a train for an event. It'd be a pretty wide train that had a lot of room to maneuver around, and there'd be several strategic locations to hold your ground while it slowly goes forward and zombies can jump on it. I even had one idea where it stops a couple of times. You have to get out and clear the path till it can keep going for the first time, and on the second time, you're on a gas can hunt and you have to refuel the train. Though I didn't think that'd fit anywhere. It'd be pretty weird to have a normal level part in a finale, and it'd also be really weird to have a gas can section in a normal level. Also, I'm pretty sure trains don't run on gasoline. The whole train idea never came into fruition after I realized that moving platforms and the navigation areas that the AI zombies and survivors use for pathfinding don't go well together, and I found that out the hard way. One idea that actually almost made it in was an event with a lift that was supposed to happen at the end of level 1, where you boarded a lift with a bunch of crates on it, and as it went down to ground level, zombies would board the lift from the sides or jump on top of it and go through these holes in the roof. You'd have to kill them before they boarded the lift, and each floor of the construction building had differently placed walls and stairs. It was supposed to get more intense as it went on because more floors were above you and more could jump on top of you, and it culminated in this quick run to the safe room. The problem is that, again, moving platforms don't work well with enemy navigation, which is why every elevator or cab ride in the vanilla game has been used as a break area where nothing can attack you. I spent a week trying to get this to work, but eventually I gave up on it and turned the lift itself into a safe room, which I didn't feel good doing, but after that I kinda realized it was a better idea to just end the level right there, like it does in the actual campaign, as it was long enough anyways, and that it probably wasn't a good idea to have a panic event on all 5 levels of the campaign anyways. And so, after over a year of working on it, Fallen Fortress is done. Apart from the textures, of course. This has no doubt been the biggest project I've ever worked on so far. Maybe it was too ambitious for what was one of the first mods I've ever created. But whatever, I had fun making it, and that is what I live for. So what's next after Fallen Fortress? I still have a lot of other ideas for Left 4 Dead 2 maps. I especially want to follow this theme of going around the world to bring more diversity between the setting and themes. Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 just explore the eastern US, and while that didn't stop them from being some of my favorite games ever, it'd still be cool to explore other areas. I had an idea for a campaign that takes place in a medieval castle, so that could be in a more of a European setting. Maybe there could be a level in the desert cities of Africa, or the snowy lands of Siberia. I also had another idea for a campaign where a volcano goes off in the middle of it, And after that happens, everything's on fire and there's lava all around. Maybe give it a tropical setting and have it take place in Hawaii or something like that. I don't know.